Alrighty, guys. So, gonna do a little bit of an explanation here about something you guys saw the other day about me running a diesel, like that one. This one's different from the one I was running the other day, but nonetheless, let's get on with it here. There's basically three kinds of fuel, and well, there's several different kinds of engines here, but so a lot of people saw me run this right here. This is diesel mixture. This is a mixture of ether, a 50-50 mix of pumped diesel fuel, kerosene, and castor oil, and a nitrate ignition improver such as isopropyl nitrate. I can't help you on where to get that from, and might be illegal in your area. Isopropyl nitrate has nothing to do with isopropyl alcohol. Do not ever mix isopropyl with ether, because you can get what's called explosive peroxides, which are basically a shock-sensitive material, which can make this blow up, which is never good. But I know there's one or two people that have a diesel in the group, besides myself. Always keep it in a glass jar, out of the sunlight, dark place, and don't store it in plastic, because the ether can actually move through the plastic and evaporate. So if you'd be tempted to mix up a quart, don't do that unless you intend on using it really fast. But this mixture here will not work in a glow engine such as what you see here for an RC car. These don't have a high compression ratio, and although they do use a glow plug, they're much different from the glow plug what you'd find in a diesel. These engines here run on this, which is glow fuel, and so is this one. This one is a little different. Get to that in a minute. This one is a 10% nitromethane mixture with 10% oil, the rest methanol. And how these engines work, for most of you that already know that, is the platinum in the glow plug reacts with the methanol in the fuel, creating a catalytic reaction which keeps the engine going forward. Same with my Ray Duga 7M, which is a .40 steel piston engine, and same with my XL90 here. So these will all run on the same fuel. And the other kind of fun thing is, this is what's called FAI fuel, or zero nitro. So this has no nitromethane in it. This is just two base ingredients, which is methanol and castor oil. That's original glow fuel, what you'd find in the 1950s and 60s and so on, before they started adding nitromethane to the fuel, because they realized it made it tune easier, start faster, more performance, things like that. But you can run your RC car on a mixture of methanol and castor oil. This is an 85-15 mixture, meaning 85% methanol, 15% Klotz castor oil, the only one with a green label. And they will run fine on that. If you're running a hot plug, you will have to do a little bit of tuning, but other than that, they will run fine on that. Same with this engine, which runs on 0 to 10%, and this one runs 0 to 15% nitro. You wouldn't want to go throwing RC car fuel in there, like say 39 blend or something like that, because there's not enough lubrication for a big 4-stroke. But the interesting thing is, being this engine is very large displacement of 15 cc's, so it's a .90. It has a very high compression ratio, around 11.75 to 1. And if the engine is, or if it is a warm day, the engine will run on a diesel mixture just fine. There's actually no rubber parts except for pushrod tube O-rings in this engine, and it will run not bad at all. And you can actually start it without using the glow plug whatsoever. I have tried that in my Ray Duga 40. This engine was made in Russia in 1975. It's actually a copy of an OS 40FP. And this engine was actually made in an arms factory where they used to make bombs and shit like that. Pretty cool. But if you warm this engine up a little bit with a head heater, it will run on diesel as well. Not well, but it will run on it. This engine here is a diesel. This is also a Russian engine. They stopped making these after the Iron Curtain fell in Russia in 1991. It is 1.5 cc. It reaches 13,000 RPM. And it is only compression ignition. There's no glow plug, preheat, exhaust pipe, or carburetor. It is wide open in the back, as you can see, with a rear induction valve. I get the question sometimes, well, could I run this in my Nitro RC car? No, you cannot. If the engine's hot enough, it might work. But the problem is that it will destroy your fuel system. This is petroleum. This is methanol based. And what will happen is petroleum, such as things like this or WD-40, will destroy fuel tank O-rings, fuel lines, carburetor parts. And if you have a silicone-filled crankshaft, it'll destroy that too. Not to say that the lubrication's not there, because it is, because this is 30% oil content. But the catalytic reaction will not really happen between these, the platinum and this fuel. And the compression ratio is not really high enough. If it does manage to run, it'll ping and detonate like crazy and backfire lots and just not run very good, or at least even rev. And if it does, it'll get very hot. These engines are obviously air-cooled, so by the propeller. And there's actually conversion kits to run my 90 here on diesel, 0 nitro, or up to 15%. So, and this guy right here will not run a nitro either. You can try, nothing will happen, it just won't start. This engine here has a compression ratio of 17.8 to 1, which is quite high, so it has about 360 to 400 psi firing pressure, where an engine like that fires around maybe 90 to 120 psi maximum. This engine's a little more than that. This one fires around 200 psi, so this will actually run on diesel. It'll run quite well, so as long as you get the mixture right. But that's pretty much a little video on that, explaining these kind of three fuels. And people wonder why I run 0 nitro is because I get methanol for very, very cheap. Oftentimes it's quite pure, and I just make my own fuel. And if you know how to tune your engine correctly, it's no problem. I don't really care what percentage of nitro I have, as long as I can go out bashing. A lot of you guys out there race and want 30 or higher. That's great, but I'm a weekend warrior. I get what I can run. So this is actually Traxxas fuel, which I know a lot of you guys are going to slag on me for. But the difference with this, as you notice, the color is, it is lighter, because it's actually been turned from 30%, or sorry, they're 33% into 2 gallons of 16%, or 16.5%, whatever you want to call it, with a 12% oil content, and it seems to run quite well. But anyways, guys, so there's kind of 3 fuels, and you won't really run into these too much. These are kind of a dying breed. You will never see them pretty much. And if you do get them, you really have to know what you're doing, because you can end up screwing yourself over pretty good. The 4-strokes, leave them for airplanes. Big 40 like this, airplane stuff once again. Just stick with the proper fuels and you won't have a problem. That's why I'm making this video, is because I've had so many people ask me if they can use a diesel mixture in engines like this. And no, they're not a primitive diesel, they're just a 2-stroke with a catalytic ignition. Anyways, guys, take it easy, and keep running nitro, or diesel, or 0 nitro. Anyways, rock on, y'all.